If you have not subscribed to Alboa Cinema, this is where you will get everything. So subscribe. Wewe ni wewe naongelesha. Subscribe.
Start me journey with a camera in the hand. Like we view the movies, make the people understand that. Can I film industry? Yeah, me standing tall. Alboa Cinema, me give it me all. From the small youth, me had a dream so bright. Every movie me break it down, shed the light. Film production, the heart, the soul, me pride. The journey never easy, but me never hide. Alboa Cinema.
So this is one of those videos that I'm going to do a bit off the prescribed videos I've been doing for the last year. I was, of course, if you'd watched the last video, I am kind of making some slight changes. Let's say, I don't know if it's a slight or major. I'm expanding the range of topics that I'll be talking about on this channel. So the things that basically catch my interest, whichever. So because I have so many interests, sometimes they intersect, sometimes it's just a standalone thing. So I wanted to talk about there's this channel I watch, this one, Yazubi. This is like a Nigerian British guy who's like a rapper, also does a lot of online content. Followed him for years. Now he talks more politics and whatnot, and there's been kind of this back and forth about atheism and religious doctrines. The West has been a hotbed for those for a long time. Personally, I don't care much for religion. I've not been, I do not hide that fact. There is a lot of things, especially my main thing is that as I've evolved my ideas is that the ideological possession of any kind is dangerous to how we live, to the truth, and all those things. So we listen to this. It's more inclined towards what has happened in terms of religiosity. Personally, while I'm not religious, I do not have the mindset that it's useless. So we are going to talk about it and see, because unfortunately most people who are ideologically possessed don't have the ability to have nuanced discussions about the ideas. They just want it as it is or no. So tusikize hapa, you might learn something.
A devout Christian would make you a member of the counterculture, not the normal society. And in that environment, it's, there's something beautiful about it, but it's like...
So I started, it's a long, you see it's here 1 hour, 20 minutes. So I just picked this particular topic to talk about. You should otherwise go to Zubi's channel and you can consume the rest of it, because they talk about many different things: negative framing, ideological fatigue, US foreign policy, patriotism, money in politics, Saudi Arabia. So it's a lot of these culture wars, the West. So I am inside those culture wars because
you kind of can't write God out of the human soul. You can.
That is the thing, actually. I'll start right away and tell you. This is the one thing that I accepted. It is, most people are inclined that way. From very young, we're very young, you're already introduced to that idea in your culture of gods, different types of gods. But you see, in our country, it's more Christianity, Islam. There's some Hinduism and these other little sects here and there. But it's a common concept that won't go away, in my opinion. It seems to have, there's a certain inclination towards gravitating to such ideas. I don't have a comprehensive argument as to why, but it's there. So sometimes those things are there and you're trying to explain and trying to understand why. But it's there. Personally, I don't have allegiances to that because I am more inclined to, I don't want to lie. I don't want to pretend that I believe in things I don't. It's not possible. I already jumped over that fence and nobody really has given me any reasonable argument that I should follow your particular brand of God or religion or what, because everybody claims the truth, but very few actually want to argue out the nuances of their ideology, their religions. So for me, it's like I will take the good that is there, I'll take the good that's somewhere else and work with what works. So I'm not going to be tied down to a particular ideology. I don't think most people are like that, though. So I don't know. I guess I'm saying that we all made different, but I can't. It's impossible for me unless if you see me come out as religious and a pastor, because I'll come out as a pastor. You just know, feel me mechapa sasa ni pesa natafuta kwa religion. Because believe it or not, I know how to do it so well. I understand the vulnerabilities have towards their religion. I know how it's used to make people do things they don't want to do. Vile muliona hapa mashakahola manini, with so many ridiculous things. So for me, I'm like, if you see me, I'm telling you now, that if you see me there, you just know jamaa amekuwa conman tuendelee.
Try all you want to, but that's a losing battle, man. And so
I agree.
There is this tremendous thirst for not just God, that is part of it, but all the things that God represents, which is truth and decency and meaning and purpose, all of these things. And now it's like making this huge research.
Because that is what I think is important. Not that you think that the God actually exists, but what you think that being represents. So if it's that decency and being a good person and whatnot, that is what it's supposed to be. But so many people are literalists. Ilikuwa hivyo. Au kukwao hujamwambiwa na mtu fulani, but here we are arguing those semantics. So I'm more inclined to accept the argument of what that God would represent more than exactly that they actually exist or not. Because there are people now who've gone out of that a particular God kind of argument to, it is this cosmic energy, the source. There's so many ways that people want to describe it. And I think it's also because of the fear that you don't want to be left out of the tribe. So people just try to, be subtle about it, just acquiesce a little bit. Wasiseme I'm godless heathen. Wasinite godless heathen. Yeah, so anyway, tuendelee.
And I do think there's something about that that's just like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Amen. And I'm glad you said that because, that's not a topic I've heard you speak on very much. The whole faith aspect. In fact, I wasn't really sure where you were on all that. But yeah, I mean, I had a different upbringing. I grew up in a Christian household, and I've always been
as with most of us.
And it's just so obvious and apparent to me when I look at the USA, the UK, Canada, Australia, France, Germany, all of these nations, that as they are losing their faith, they are losing so many things downstream of it. And we've kind of been running this experiment for the last, I'd guess maybe the last 60 years in particular, maybe post-sexual revolution. Where
imagine mko hapo mko na sexual revolution, mko na ndio saizi mbona baju kila mtu akona yake. Everyone has picked their own sexuality. They've made up some wamejita binary. You see, it's all mixed up in this soup. And anyway, let's continue. I have something to say.
There's been this sort of theory that if we can just kind of get rid of God and anything non-sciency and anything quote unquote superstitious, then we're going to have this perfectly rational kumbaya society. Everyone's going to get on well. There will be no discrimination. There's going to be more peace. Everyone's going to be very logical. Instead, we've ended up with, men in women's bathrooms. And
this is the thing. I have to be honest with you. I was initially, when I was listening to people arguments for or against religion or existence of gods, there was always that underlying argument about the way it's described that things will become more logical, people will become more logical, people will make better decisions, they'll wait for evidence, and but that kind of thinking removes the human condition totally from the process, because the human condition is very different. In as much as I want people to be logical about everything, in as much as I want to be logical about everything, we don't pull it off naturally, because we have these emotions that cloud judgments all the time, twist fact, twist how we see things. Because a lot of the times, like when you're told that don't make a decision when you're mad, it's because you're at a heightened state where you're not really thinking coherently. You're just acting impulsively. Now your animal nature, You're coming hard. You want to take away this threat, if you perceived threat. I think that's what it is about. So we don't have the capacity to do that a lot of that. I think the people who pull it off more often than not, they're the ones who end up making more right decisions than not. Because a lot of the times, if you're only just heightened about something and you're just going, you don't look at the surrounding consequences of what you think. Because sometimes people try to explain things in such a simple way while they're very complicated. So for example, now they said yes, all those things logical, but actually I found a lot of like the Western atheists have leaned so hard into the woke ideology. If you ask them what a woman is, all that business of science, not proved science, they can't now use the science because the idea has taken off. It's become like a religion to them now. So now they can't describe a woman. They actually get mad if a man who's just wearing a dress and makeup says they're a woman, and you say no, that's a dude with makeup. They get irate. It's like when you talk shit about somebody's religion. They get irate like that. Like they lose their minds. They don't want you to lose your job. They don't want you to not have any access to society at all over that. So you understand. So I initially was talking about how ideologies totally consume people, so that they direct how they think and how they act. And that's, for me, that's the danger, because I've seen it with the religious people. Before all this woke stuff came, it was the religious people who were there telling us that video games are bad. That, you see, right now, the puritanism of the woke is also reflected from actually like these long-standing religions. Don't dress, don't sexualize me. Although with the woke they say don't sexualize me, but they sexualize the same. It is a woman's right to sleep around and explore. You see, so they want to have it both ways. But I've learned in my 46 years of existence, you can't. You never will. Life is about you. There's some things you have to give up to gain some. There's no that you'll have everything you want. It's impossible. And I think that sentiment has overtaken so many people. And I know that it's very attractive to people who are not religious. Religious does have those constraints and the shame and the rules and the regulations. It does tend to limit people somewhat, although, of course, we've seen people go overboard. But there are those kind of constraints that are there. In as much as they don't stop everything, they stop a considerable lot. There's some people here who just need direction, my friend. If you leave them to their own tools, we'll see fire. So there is that. But also on this other side, these people feel that they are not shackled by anything. They can do whatever they want. So they do the most degenerate things. As the lizard brain takes over, now it's just let's fornicate. And can we fornicate this way or that way? Can you do your leg this way or that way? Can I enter in this hole or the other hole? So it becomes this is the one thing you're obsessed about. And I don't think that the people who've built this world, that was the underlying cultural norm, where it's just about sex. Everything is about sex. All types,
prisons,
Yeah.
and we've ended up with infinite genders, and we've ended up
Yeah,
with massive spikes in depression and suicidal ideation and anxiety, huge divorce rates.
The meme that's like the template.
You see, it is. You could make an argument. There are many other things that would play a part in that, but I think it's at least coincidentally those things have happened at the same time. So maybe people should take some time and try and find out if there's a correlation. But this is the thing. Religious expression has always changed. People have always said this is the way. Then as culture changes, as people mix, as they look at some of the things in the practices, like, this is how it weird. The things about the Bible, about slavery and all those things. Those are things even nobody cares about, because they realize, yes, it's in the holy book, but it's bullshit. So you leave it out, like, they say that how a boss should, an owner should treat a slave, how a slave should treat the owner. There's those kinds of rather backward ideas, when that was popular and that when that was norm. But you can't transport it to now. If you try, you will receive a backlash that you've never seen. It's going to be very difficult. Although it's happening a lot across the world, but it's in places where really the people have been strangled. So we do, and understand this. So there has to be some kind of check, in my opinion.
Of the meme, it's like a bus and then a train like bowling through it. You know the one I'm talking about? Like, I remember Rogan sent me once. I think it might be the best meme I've ever seen. But it was like the train that's going along, and then it gets derailed by the bus plowing through or whatever. And the train going along said, if we can just get rid of religion, then superstition will vanish and rational thought will be what governs human beings. And then the thing bursting through just said, pregnant men. I was like, yo, that's...
Actually, the West, you'll ask somebody, can men get pregnant? Ask a woke person that question, they'll tell you yes. Then they'll go around this song and dance about, you're born female, but you feel like a man, then you did the it's nonsense. We all know it's nonsense. But I also actually thought that those instances, flat earth, they'll reduce with the information age. But that was never the problem, was it? It's not about lack of knowledge. It's just that people are more inclined to follow their emotions more than rational thought. I don't think rational thought gives people the high they need, because it's something laborious. You have to work at. It's hard, So this one is a quick injection of some happy hormones. Hey, I felt good. I've been validated. So that is where politics, religion, that's where they lie. Because even relationships, that's where they lie. That's why people, everything. If you look around like social media, relationships, politics, it's the same. Even sports and movies, it works on that kind of it works on the same senses, if you like. Make that feel good, just on the edge. So I think people are more attracted to that than the slow grind of rational living and being responsible. That is not so exciting. Although in the long term it gives you long term success, but most people, they're inclined to now. I want to eat now. I want to enjoy it now. That pudesh now. Gladly that now. Fly to Dubai now. Oh, feces on forehead now.
That sums it up all right there. Like, just the perfect meme. And that's exactly right. And look, this was explicitly what the new atheists, the Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and that whole group, what they said was that the problem with religion is that it's all based on superstition and you can't logically prove it, and it's just taken over.
The thing is, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, because if you're going to not read a lot of, say, what the Bible stories are about, if you don't read them literally, and you try to get the allegory and the teachings in them, that don't mean that necessarily Lot's wife turned to salt, but there's a story as to what that means. You see, because that was a very simplistic way. So I have to be honest, I listened to those guys and they made a lot of sense. But slowly over time, you also have to look at your ideas and refine them. I still don't think there's a Jehovah or Allah that's going to surround controlling everything, or I don't, because that one requires the said being to show up. I'm not taking any word of a broker here who's trying to make money off me and to control my life. No, I've refused. So those guys, they had good arguments. They have a lot of factual arguments. But they've also simplified the stories, because it's actually a repository for most of the history, wherever those came from. But a lot of those are human experiences that's why it's been transported all over the world and people gravitated towards it. Because it's about human experiences, and they are good stories that can give you good teachings. Even 10 commandments, if you reduce them to 5, there's some nonsense in the commandments, but there's some basic ones that we all know even in normal living that we shouldn't do. So it can't be that simplistic. That's what I'm saying.
Remove that, then we could deal in like a rational society where people came to and like, look, we could get into the arguments of, like, I actually think a lot of the atheists kind of overplay their hands, and it's not as strong of an argument that they think they have. But regardless, even if you grant them that, like, let's just say
the argument is strong. That's the thing. This is also thing, like, these guys forget just how much overreach religious expression has, and just how much stupidity and ignorance there is in them. You can pick the good parts and not starting to assume like everything about it is good. This is the problem you had with it in the first place. And that's why you lost the culture to a bunch of people that can't describe a woman. You simply refuse to see, just like the other ideologues, that you have major chinks in your armor. It's impossible for everybody to have everything they want. Sometimes people just say they want something and they don't. We know that all the time. So we have to have rational discussion at the bottom of it. I'm not going to assume your God is correct because you are interceding for a being you're claiming exists, who's all powerful, all knowing, but here you are trying to intercede on its behalf. Come on now. That make that much sense. We can move out of that without having to act ridiculous and dogmatic about it.
Bible is all superstitious or something like that, and
it's not all superstition, but there's a lot of superstition in it. Like you have to recognize that, otherwise it's silly to continue having the same arguments which made you lose the first time. The religions have changed. They've continued to change. Even Islam, which is still a bit restrictive, it is changing, and it's being forced by current cultural changes and people mixing, as it's always been. And now even the mixing and interactions has even been heightened. Social media, the traveling and whatnot. It will change whether you like it or not. The problem is that you refuse to see it because you really want to thump for your ideology. Unfortunately, some of it works, some doesn't work, as we've seen it throughout history. This wokeness is just very new, but the woke people before were the religious one. No? And you destroyed a lot of people and a lot of shit along the way with your corrupt Catholic. Did you see what the Catholic Church did? The hundreds of thousands of children that they abused. What are you talking about, man?
We can't. It is certainly true that a relationship with God requires faith. It's not something that I can objectively, logically prove to you.
Of course.
The same way that I can objectively prove that, I physically exist and am here in this room.
Yeah.
However, even if you accept the atheist framework, the real flaw in atheism is that it doesn't exist. It's not real. And maybe it could be.
Okay, I don't know why people say such stupid things. What do you mean it's not real? It exists. There are people who don't believe in God. You see, this is the nonsense that people keep speaking. These are two very smart people, by the way. But once an ideology just comes in and you're possessed by it and you can't think, you can't even look at your own ideology and try and find out the chinks. What's wrong with it? You're making a very big assumption. What do you mean it doesn't exist? You literally mentioned a number of people that exercise. There are people right now in the world that exercise. The parts of the world where they exercise that they don't believe in your particular brand of God. Some believe in many gods. Some believe a tree is a god. What are you talking about? So all these are not uniform. And the problem is now you are getting possessed by your own ideology because these other ones went too far. Now you also have to go too far on the other side. I'm telling you, at this particular time in history, the information travels too fast for this to fly anymore. You need to make the adjustment. It seems you are logical until you're not, because ideology.
For an individual, but it certainly can't scale. This is just demonstrably true. You can.
No, I mean, I can agree with that it might not be able to scale because, believe it or not, most people are not rational. So it's very hard to scale. And I think most of the position that you can't prove gods exist is the rational position. But you can't scale it because it needs a lot of independent thought for that to go on. And you have to be comfortable with the fact that this is all that they might be. Yeah, that's the thing, because everybody's wishing, maybe I can have around 2. I mean, fine, but this might be all. What then? You stop living? I've never lost the zeal to live because that might be a reality. Ever, never. Like I want more now because this might be it. So you must have good arguments to make because you can't just say it doesn't exist. Like, I'm a bit disappointed. I do like him, but that was a stupid comment.
You can prove this empirically. And if you look at the most, it's like, look at college campuses, say liberal college campuses. It's the most atheistic place you could find. I mean, nobody is a devout you know, I mean, okay, there might be a few Christians.
Most people are not devout religious people. They just attach themselves in a tribal way. They don't live by most of the doctrines. As in, we know this. This is the thing. Because people are pretending that there's this other world that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Most people just say, I'm a Christian, but they don't live by 80% of the doctrines in there. Come on now.
There, but
and I've found that actually a lot of Christians are fake. I would say Islam, because it's a lot more forceful, a lot more people, and there's a lot more cultural control. You find a lot of more people actually behave as they should, but not Christianity. Come on now. You guys have so many denominations. You don't even know which or where to start and where to finish. It's ridiculous.
Large, nobody is a believer. It is permeated by atheists. And then look at wokeism. And you go, oh, that's just another religion. It's just another, it's the same exact thing. Articles of faith, blasphemy, holy texts, all the characterization, all the characteristics of a religion they have, except it's not a religion with thousands of years of stability behind it that's built advanced civilizations. It's a brand new religion that...
This is the thing, the arrogance to think. You see, because a lot of you forget everything else that happened outside your religion, that built this cultural, that the culture and the progress and we have right now. You forget so many things when you're trying to posture about why do you pick only the religion? Why all the other advancement in technology and what that happened through that time that were not attached to a religious belief, other than trying to rationalize the world, the forces in the world, not Jehovah is coming with a screwdriver. Like, you see, the issue I have, I think you should go and finish this argument, because that's where I really wanted to get with this. There's always this fight where everybody wants their ideology to win. But on this particular one, he said it himself that wokeism is like a religion. I've told you guys so much. And it's so negative because it's so irrational. So, like, people don't even want to think outside that. And he compared religion to that. So he has the comparison. He sees having these ideas behave the same way this way, but then he has the caveat, it doesn't have thousands of years of stability. What stability? Thousands of years, so what stability? Oh, you mean all the wars around the world? Oh, you mean all the slavery, all that imperialism, but you mean all that? Come on. We all need to have a bit more rational thought. It's not just about, we lose all of us if right now it becomes the religious extremist takeover. It will be the same as wokeism, because we've tested it before. By the way, religion used to be the overarching principle where people would try and extract their meaning and what, and then other things came up, and now a lot more things give people meaning. Some might be superficial, some might be real. I think somebody's career, if they are an entrepreneur, if they are building shit, I think that easily replaces, even if you don't like it, replaces your ideological slants. Because it gives you more satisfaction. It's actually real on the ground, and you can see have effect on people immediately. If you're solving a problem, if it's a disease that is being sorted out, it's all that you can feel. There's more satisfaction, and I can tell you, you need to argue this case more in your head instead of trying to make political statements all the time, because one side has to win. Both sides are very wrong on many things. Those are the facts of life. Most of us are in the middle. When you start pushing now, I left religion because of the ideological possession part. Wokeism on this side, the moment I realized atheists were really like gravitating, I couldn't make sense of it. I realized it's the same. So I went to the middle, where you can pick from whichever side there's something good. But when you start, it doesn't exist, it's there. So now you have to live with it. Just saying it doesn't exist, I mean it will go away. Come on now. These are the people who are telling these woke people, and they say a man can't be a woman. Yes, they can't, but they'll keep telling you it can't be a woman. Oh, a man is a woman. Like, they'll keep saying that, but no matter how many times they say it, it's not true. The same way with you. Let's just see a little more then.
Possibility of building civilization, because all it does is tear everything down. And it's real easy, to come in and and point to things that are oppressive and say, I want to tear them down, because almost all of existence is oppressive. And so you could certainly make a case for, like, marriage. Have there been marriages that are oppressive? Sure, no question. So let's get rid of marriage. You know?
No, that's an extreme reaction to that. You just try and get rid of the oppressive ones. Because that's the thing. On your side also, you want to say, oh, this all doesn't count. That's the problem we have.